Scene script. Have you ever felt as though you're the center of attention even when you're not trying to be? Have you ever assumed that everyone in the room is noticing the smallest details about you, from the crease in your shirt to the way you sip your coffee? If so, you're not alone. This common human experience is known as the spotlight effect. The spotlight effect is a fascinating psychological phenomenon, a quirk of our mind that makes us believe we're on center stage, even when we're just one among many in the crowd. It's that sneaky feeling that people are noticing more about us than they actually are. It's like having a spotlight following us around, illuminating our every move, gesture, and word for all to see. At least that's what we think. So where does this spotlight effect originate from? Well, it's deeply rooted in our psychology. As humans, we're naturally self-focused. We spend a lot of time thinking about ourselves, our actions, our thoughts, and our feelings. And because we're so focused on ourselves, we tend to forget that others might not be paying as much attention. They too are wrapped up in their own spotlights. The spotlight effect influences our behavior, our decisions, and even our self-esteem. It can make us overly self-conscious, anxious, and can even prevent us from taking risks or trying new things for fear of being judged. But here's the kicker. Most of the time, people are not observing us as closely as we think they are. They're too busy dealing with their own lives, their own concerns, their own spotlights. In the next few scenes, we'll delve deeper into the science behind this phenomenon, its impact on our daily lives, and even explore some real-life examples. We'll also discuss strategies to overcome this effect and free ourselves from the imaginary spotlight that follows us around. As we delve deeper into this intriguing psychological phenomenon, prepare to uncover the truth about the spotlight effect. The spotlight effect is not just a figment of our imagination, it is deeply rooted in our psychology. What's fascinating is that the spotlight effect is a product of a cocktail of cognitive biases and a heavy dose of self-awareness. One of the main contributors is known as the illusion of transparency. This is our tendency to overestimate how much our internal states are noticed by others. We might think that our nervousness in a presentation is as clear as day, but in reality, it's often not as noticeable as we believe. Then, there's the false consensus effect. This cognitive bias leads us to believe that others share our attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors more than they actually do. So, when we do something we perceive as embarrassing, we assume everyone else is judging us harshly, but the truth is they might not even be paying attention. Now let's talk about self-consciousness and self-awareness. These two factors play a significant role in the spotlight effect. When we're highly self-conscious or self-aware, we're more likely to feel like we're under scrutiny. We become hyper-aware of our every action, every word, every mistake, and this hyper-awareness amplifies the spotlight effect. Interestingly, our brain's default mode network, the part responsible for mind-wandering and self-referential thoughts, also plays a part. When we're not engaged in a task, our minds often drift to thoughts about ourselves, and the more we think about ourselves, the more we feel like we're in the spotlight. However, it's essential to note that the spotlight effect is not all bad. It's a byproduct of our ability to empathize and consider others' perspectives, which is a crucial part of being human. But, like with everything, balance is key. Understanding the science behind the spotlight effect allows us to see why we often feel like we're under a microscope. So remember, next time you feel like you're in the spotlight, it's likely more about your perception than reality. The spotlight effect is not just a theoretical concept, it manifests in our daily lives in various ways. Let's take a look at some relatable examples. Picture this. You're at a social gathering and accidentally spill a drink on your shirt. You immediately feel a pang of embarrassment, convinced that everyone in the room has noticed and is silently judging you. However, in reality, most people are engrossed in their own conversations and barely register the incident. This is a classic case of the spotlight effect in action. Another example that many of us can relate to is experiencing a bad hair day. You walk into the office convinced that everyone is zeroing in on your unruly locks. But the truth is, your colleagues are likely more concerned about their own workloads and deadlines than your temporary hairstyle mishap. Or consider a time when you've made a minor mistake during a presentation. You might feel as though all eyes are on you, scrutinizing your every word and action. Yet most of your audience members are probably more focused on the content of your presentation rather than the small error you made. In each of these scenarios, you are overestimating the extent to which your actions or appearances are being noticed and judged by others. This is the spotlight effect at work, making you feel like you're always under a microscope. And it's not just limited to these instances. The spotlight effect can also influence our behavior in more subtle ways. For instance, it might make us overly conscious about our clothing choices, our manner of speaking, or the kind of posts we share on social media. So, why does this matter? Because the spotlight effect can lead us to behave in ways that are driven by perceived judgment rather than our own preferences or values. It can make us more self-conscious and inhibit us from expressing our true selves. These examples illustrate how the spotlight effect can shape our perceptions and behaviors. The spotlight effect does more than just make us feel self-conscious. It can have profound implications on our mental health and relationships. Enter the world of the spotlight effect, where every action you take, every word you utter, feels like it's under the scrutiny of a glaring spotlight. This phenomenon isn't just about feeling a tad self-conscious, it's about the profound impact it can have on your life. When we're under the illusion that we're constantly in the spotlight, it can lead to heightened levels of anxiety and stress. The persistent belief that our every move is being watched and judged can trigger a state of chronic tension and worry. This isn't just uncomfortable, it can have serious repercussions on our health, leading to issues like sleep disorders, digestive problems, and even heart disease. But the impact of the spotlight effect doesn't stop at causing physical health problems. It can also cultivate social awkwardness. The fear of being judged can make us second-guess our actions, leading to awkward encounters and stunted social interactions. We might find ourselves avoiding social situations altogether, which can lead to feelings of isolation and loneliness. But perhaps one of the most significant impacts of the spotlight effect is on our relationships. If we're constantly worried about how we're perceived, it can create barriers between us and the people we care about. We might hold back from expressing our true feelings for fear of judgment or rejection. This can lead to strained relationships, misunderstandings, and ultimately, a sense of disconnection. The spotlight effect can also disrupt our ability to form new relationships. We might avoid meeting new people, scared of the perceived judgment that might come with it. This can limit our opportunities to make meaningful connections and experience the richness of diverse human interactions. In essence, the spotlight effect can create a distorted reality, one where we're constantly on stage under the harsh glare of an imagined spotlight. This can impact our well-being and the way we interact with others, but remember, the spotlight effect is just that. An effect, a perception. It's not the reality. The spotlight effect can create a distorted reality, impacting our well-being and the way we interact with others. While the spotlight effect is a natural part of human psychology, it doesn't have to control our lives. And that's the truth. You have the power to step out of that glaring spotlight and melt into the crowd, where you can be yourself, unjudged, unscrutinized, and free. Let's dive into some strategies that can help you do just that. First up is practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness is all about being present in the moment, focusing on the here and now rather than what others may or may not be thinking about you. By honing your attention on your immediate experiences, you can drown out the background noise of imagined judgment. Next, challenge your cognitive distortions. These are skewed ways of thinking that can fuel the spotlight effect. They might sound like, everyone will laugh if I stumble over my words, or people will think I'm weird if I eat alone. To challenge these thoughts, ask yourself, is this really true? Do I have concrete evidence? More often than not, you'll find these fears are baseless. Lastly, develop a more realistic view of how others perceive you. Remember, everyone is the star of their own show. They're more focused on their lines than on your performance. You're just a supporting character in their narrative, not the lead role. Think about it this way. When you're in a crowd, are you scrutinizing every single person, dissecting their every move and choice? Probably not. You're likely too wrapped up in your own world, your own thoughts. And that's exactly how others are too. Overcoming the spotlight effect isn't about ignoring the fact that others may have opinions about you. It's about accepting that you can't control those opinions and they don't define your worth. It's about stepping out from the shadows of imagined judgment and into the light of self-acceptance. By understanding and addressing the spotlight effect, we can free ourselves from the imagined spotlight and live more authentically. And that, my friends, is a life lived without undue stress, without unnecessary self-consciousness, and with a whole lot more joy.